Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. This is my second time that I am here at this RICS conference. And I must say, I'm very happy to be here and talking to practitioners in urban development, because for the past 4 to 5 years, urban development in India is not only my work, thinking about it, writing about it, interacting with municipal level people and state governments, but also my passion. I'm a mainstream economist who for a long time has talked about competitiveness of the Indian economy and talked about improving investment climate. May I? Yeah. But not really talked about the role of livable cities in creating that investment environment. My work in the last 4 to 5 years has convinced me that we need to invest in our cities, because cities are increasingly going to be the engines of growth for the Indian economy. As you know, in the 1980s and 1990s, Indian economy grew at about 5.5% per year GDP growth. In the 2000s, this increased to almost 8% per year. And even today, with a lot of talk, with a lot of focus on the cyclical slowdown this year, there is no denying the fact that India's basic fundamentals are very strong. And even if, the 12th plan has set a target of 8.2% per year GDP growth, but even if you assume that we are somewhere around 7 to 7.5% GDP growth, with population growth at 1.5%, we are still talking about this large economy growing, where per capita incomes are increasing at the rate of 6% per year. We only have 31% of our population living in urban areas, but the share of urban GDP in total GDP of India is 2/3, and it's expected to increase to 75% in the next 20 years. So there is no question that cities are going to play a very major role as the economy continues to grow at 7 to 8% per year, and as we see more migration from rural areas to urban areas. What happens is that you then have our existing cities expanding at the borders. If we don't plan for it, we end up having unplanned expansion of cities. We need more cities, and we need to plan those cities correctly. We have tremendous heritage, both of a natural sort and architectural kind. We need to preserve that as we develop our cities to play the role as engines of growth. So in that context, what can urban planning do? As I think I mentioned last year when I was at this conference, that I was chairing a high-powered expert committee on urban infrastructure for the Ministry of Urban Development, and we had presented our report to the two ministries, the Urban Development Ministry and Housing Ministry last year. Now, since then, what we are engaged in now at ICRIER, again with the blessings of the Ministry of Urban Development, is that we are first trying to disseminate the findings of this report and generally share the knowledge that we have acquired on the state of Indian cities and how we need to invest not only in building water, sanitation, public health kind of conditions in our cities in the context of a city development plan, but also a mobility plan, a plan to connect cities, a plan which looks at developing cities where investment is going. A plan which focuses on transit-oriented development. You know, you'll be surprised to know that in India, in urban planning, urban transport was never at the center of urban planning. Urban planning basically meant some idea of, you know, how in a certain area which is declared as urban, you will have residential space, you will have commercial space, sometimes mixed use, sometimes not, and then some public spaces. And even these so-called master planning methods that we followed were very static. They were not really dynamic. And the crucial part of how transport and transit systems were organized and how they were integrated with land use zoning was not part of our whole planning mechanism. And I think that is the urgent need of the hour today. And this is basically the message that we are taking to state governments. We now have a knowledge sharing, capacity building, and research project at Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations, where we interact with a group of state-level officials and urban local bodies officials in different parts of the country. Every month we are somewhere or the other, and wherever we go, we learn of new challenges of that region, and we also convey to them some of the best practices that we observe in the course of our work, in this area. And I think that is where RICS and ICRIER together can play an important role, because we are still looking at urban development in a macro context, and yours is a much more micro context. And what we need to do is we need to bring the two together so that people can recognize the importance of urban planning, because urbanization is there. It's not a choice anymore. And some states have recognized it, and these states you can count on your fingertips. You have Maharashtra, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh. These are 5 states that come to mind. There'd be 1 or 2 others. But mostly, in the other states, you have to actually show them what is the low-hanging fruit, how with very little investment in some basic infrastructure sectors for urban service delivery, and with improvement in governance, they can really change the quality of life in their cities. So for those of you who may be interested in some of the low-hanging fruits and some of the major transformations that are taking place in Indian cities, I would recommend, if you just Google my name, you will find it says Indian Express columnist. Once a month, I write a column in the Indian Express on some major transformation that has taken place, whether it is on wastewater management in Jaipur, or it has to do with underground sewerage in Alandur, or waste to energy plant, where basically the waste management is such that not more than 1% of the solid waste is actually required to be put in the landfill in Kanpur. And of course, 24/7 projects in Nagpur and a number of cities in Maharashtra, where they are actually now, they made it a program where all their urban local bodies are classified into 3 groups. And depending on what level of reform they are doing, there is a state-level state-level urban renewal mission which works to get them, So, one is at the level of a city, that you have a city development plan, you build the basic infrastructure, you improve the governance so that you get better public service delivery. Second is to connect cities and towns, and not just cities and towns, but cities with rural areas, because the economy is going through a major structural transformation and you need this connectivity. So you need a mobility plan and how your city is placed relative to the others. Now you have all heard about the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission, and we did an assessment of this mission in our report that we submitted to the government. It was actually a limited exercise, but a pioneering exercise. For the first time, the central government focused its attention on urban development. And it's not surprising that it had mixed success. And what were the critical factors that enabled some states to take advantage of JNNURM and others could not do so? We came to the conclusion after a detailed analysis that where the state government provided an enabling environment, either through amendment of laws or through creating an urban development fund, a financial intermediation, financial support, sometimes helping small urban local bodies to come together and raise money in a pooled manner. So wherever the state provided an enabling environment, it got more out of JNNURM funding to show on the ground in terms of success than otherwise. Second, wherever there was capacity at the urban local government level. I often point out that, very often we have a tendency to say that if the urban local bodies do not have financial resources, maybe the thing to do is to go for public-private partnership or capital market. But first thing to remember is that for either to be there has to be a revenue model, because neither PPP nor capital market funds are going to come if there isn't that realization that some years from now, these will be economically viable. So we have to make our urban local bodies market worthy. And the second is that there has to be capacity. Because when we talk of public-private partnerships, on the one side you have a group of highly sophisticated, trained lawyers and financial restructuring people and all who come and show them what can be done. But at the other level, you have maybe half an engineer, a quarter of an accountant, and sometimes no CEO. So how can that PPP work? In order for any partnership to work, you have to have a certain threshold level of equality. So it's extremely important to build capacity at the urban local bodies level. And our present minister, Mr. Kamal Nath, has been very keen in saying that we should really build municipal cadres. Because if you don't have a municipal cadre, then who are you going to train? You train people, but they move away. They're taken by the state government because they need financial wizards in other, what they consider more important departments. So keeping all this in mind, I think it's really extremely important to build capacity. Also, it's important to recognize that there is no uniform scenario within India. If you want to work on urban development, you really have to look at the variety. There's the best that is going on here, and there's the worst. So how you need to interact at every level is something, which you have to focus on very carefully. The other important thing that I would like to mention is that, we are going through a phase where there is a transport revolution today in India. You have metros, you have BRTS, you have controversies around each one of them, and all this is going on, and yet it is happening. You have the outer ring road of Hyderabad, you have the outer ring road of Ahmedabad, which has shown that it is possible to work on mobility, on connectivity, and also to raise finances by charging impact fee or betterment charges and put that money back into infrastructure. So all of that is going on. So that means the opportunities are enormous. But obviously, you have to very carefully scrutinize where what works and how it can be sort of, capitalized for the benefit of better public service delivery, better connectivity, and also better returns for those who are investing. So I know that I had only 10 minutes and I've probably exceeded that. So let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.